Hola so Samala Samtashi delay, Shopa delay, Nigon delay, Gomo delays, to some delay. As a sugar. Good morning everyone. Good afternoon and also good evening. I hope you can hear me. Okay. Hey Samba. You look very good.
도시나 그냥 주쪽 주청 근게봐.
지난달에 실버 갈래 실버 차이다. 아니 다들은 같이 차진다든 같이 냠이 딱분제 야저게 아니 람초리 진청하게 추치되던 데는 마음은 트든로야 인시.
So we'll be continuing on with our instructions on the Precious Garland of the Supreme Path.
아니 다들라 당보 추치도 마실 혼은 남자 주등에 자월라마도 주벨라마도 뜸바트바 왕보다 아니 감보바당 아니 뜬데거네 소라다고 유스 뜬데 인도자네 지난 속해야 생각토니 뜬데 소라다로 지시.
I'll make my usual prayers to root and lineage gurus, Lord Buddha, Gampopa, and so on. You go ahead and make your own prayers, please.
Sanje dam je je ngo re dan jin ko jam je chap da e ga ding song ba mi be pan gong tin chin la ma dam be shab je de de ma mi ba la ngo we rab de de ke be san za shin jab sen jo je sen je la ba ran ze de so nam da ze dum za me sa je la ding zin ba me re long ke ben ji shi ram ye de na we ju gong sa ra tum jo dong hu le be ge le on zo ni tam jin be ba ye le mang de lo de jin be ju ge de ni se a de ba jin be jum de ji yang de lo za jin be sha la so wa an de de jin be ga da zi de je ga je jin be la ma ni ba ran zi Chöndrü jimbe dröpe jam zin zin are ba jimbe shavla sorwa de te ba jimbe ren choyong se se sa ja jimbe do ba ang de je tele jimbo ka da nyam bara da ningom jimbe shavla sorwa de shibzan khala jing rab jing koro je enze be dong dur se le na po jebe de ba gong ne san ze ba ka ju rumbo che lang ge sa yarwa gongje zi chi shi ge ji de de ba gan re da ga ra wa pam chong ji de wa so de be ge kham sum ro wa la ma rang ge sa adin za wa la ma rum bo je da ge ji wo be me de jong la ga den jin be go ne ji song de go song tu ji nge de za de so yo de san ji gong da nyam na yang ga de san ji gong e la ben gong za wa la me xiao la so ban de da song do wa long na ju se dong ban da so ju dong ge ji de na de ji lo ma ji ba gang se da ten de de be ju jian chen be je sim bren de ba dam jian de xie xie na ma ya dam ba la ye ge dang le dang de jian ge zhu bam da dang me ge na dang lo gong je da ge ji zang ba 참지 깨더다게 주대 마준로와 남큰 타다냠베 심진 탐지 시제도 하는 타다레 저때 남들 띵제 대와 라나미바 양다 바조보 산제제 공바rum보지 되니 제내장 토버샤 다데 치도 담베 추 삼몬드니 추진도 시네 냠설랑바르 지오 냠버고네 신차
O benevolent root guru, who is in essence all Buddhas of the past, present, and future, with great devotion I prostrate to you and go for refuge to you with my body, speech, and mind, Please grant your blessings to be cared for by you inseparably in this lifetime and all of my future lives. Clean ground of pure ethical discipline, beautified by mountains of unfathomable samadhi, illuminating all things with wisdom light of the sun and moon, Supreme Buddha who accomplishes the welfare of all, please bestow virtue and goodness. Your mandala expanding throughout space and knowledge of all things, beautiful thousandfold light striking the lands of trainees, fully illuminating all of Buddha's teachings in their entirety. With devotion I prostrate to the great jewel of the Kagyu. O glorious and precious root guru, please take seat of lotus at my heart. Caring for me in your great kindness, please grant attainments of body, speech, and mind. Equal to all Buddhas in qualities of realization, yet surpassing all Buddhas in kindness to me, I pray at the feet of my root guru, O protector, please turn the minds of myself and all beings towards the Dharma. All you who have become disciples of the Sugatas, those gone to bliss, throughout the billions of worlds of the 10 directions, all of you who wish to hear the Dharma raining down here and now, may you come here. Namo, in languages of devas, nagas, and yakshas, languages of kumbhandas and human beings, and the sounds of whatever beings exist, in every language I shall teach the Dharma. Please listen well with the motivation of bodhicitta, thinking all mother sentient beings equal to the extent of space must by all means attain unexcelled eternal bliss of perfect, complete Buddhahood. To accomplish this, I shall listen carefully without distraction to the Mahayana teachings being given here and put them into practice.
Lasso, tatila, drink, chu shebar sawa, chu de kondo shuba nanji, ani nyami Gampopa, Kunke, ni, Nze Yajoke, ni Lamchorin Chintuake, the Chutin to the Beijing the Mashua is.
So we'll be continuing on with the Precious Garland of the Supreme Path, the composition of the incomparable Gampopa, Sonam Rinpoche.
Tatila music chu Mashil, when a Hundoku chu, Kashijing a Shigo, Samsonsi.
And I thought I want to speak a bit about the preliminary preparation and practices before I speak about the main subject.
Jitangarang to Tanduam, Sorseba, Jendo Sodi, Samate, Devan de Badang, and the Dharma de Ba, and the Jibachadi.
In general, all living beings, all beings that have feeling, life, they want happiness, not to experience suffering.
The Nindutani, that Devatilayang, Nekak Devatan, Tatok Deva Niyurish.
That as for happiness, there's temporary, transitory happiness, and there's also ultimate, permanent happiness.
The Nindutani, that Nekak Devati, any Jendo Sodi, Penam, Betang, and his so chat Robert Sunchik, Chunchong to the Kainayang, and the Koran to Tapshitashiki Yurish.
And as for that temporary happiness, all living beings, even animals down to the smallest insects, who seek that happiness.
In it, and Tartok Devate, and in Tartok Yangtabak Devate, and in Garangsu, me Namchuke Mato, Jimbe Jendo, Simji Jimbe Namchuke, Lok, and Dangiu Maris.
But as for that ultimate happiness, it's only human beings with our capacity that can seek it. Other life forms don't have the capacity to do that.
The Nindutani, the Lamdeang, and the Tambichu Konalatine, and Tartok Devate, Tambichugalam Latine Toyajiri.
And it's through the path of the holy Dharma that ultimate lasting happiness is attained.
The Nindutani, the Matu Devatelayang, Menamjaju the Chula, Chudela, Chupa Ang Tangbo Jitang, Chupan Ringbo Jitang, Shuba Tama Jikdang, the Sum Shiki.
And as I've mentioned before, we can think of Dharma practitioners in three categories: best, middling, and least.
The Hindutani Tangboteg, Angdamboteg, any Rang Lutang, Ying Dunda, Xiatang, Mother Rang Zowo Manjiwachi, Yin Zowochi, Chen de Zowo Majiwachi, Jiwa Sma Zowo Sini, the Angdamboke, and Chubagat and the Chigis.
So the best practitioner is someone who cares more about others than themselves, does not put themselves in prime position, but others, and a person who cares more about future lifetimes, welfare of future lives, than this short life.
The Hindutani Tangarang Chondaina that Duram Nisha Taki Pala Lebde Dutane, Duram Nisha Taki Pak number Chedinjik Siguaina, and it Durab Delan Tun Deliceke, Lamnan Roya the Ketchimbori Jazz.
So it's very important for us now, living beings of entering into the 21st century, to have a path, to find the path of spiritual development that is suitable for us, that works for us.
Today, the that Duram Nisha Taki Passe Dutane Angatu, Chudrupagan, Tunji Hajan Yong, and in Namian Kitchen Hajan Mambo. Wangbo go ngak Jison Raya Le Lao. Hajang the Chige, that Dunima, Tawanima, Sinima, Numba Nima, the Nima Ngadawa comes at the Chadi race.
And as we go into this 21st century, there are actually very few, rare facilities for us to be able to practice holy Dharma, whereas the distractions that are around us are many.
Nima Ngadawa captures.
So in this time that is so degenerate, so declined, where there's a grossness of spiritual perspective, beings are rough and have heavy delusions, and the times are violent, and lifespan is uncertain and short. In such a time as this, there's more distractions than there are the conducive conditions for us to practice Dharma. However, as times get worse and worse, Dharma becomes more and more powerful.
Pena Sanji Chomdin de Caps, Gelong, Sharipatawan, Namkalam Pendroni, Zumtrutung to me. Then Richie Mushila Topamini, then Richie Gelong Chitang, Tata Turami Shataki Panima Dava Caps, Naktam Zimba Gelong Secret, Anganda what you pena. Tapchaji, Tachichun de Nichini, any Sonam Tang, Nami Yams, Nipandanda in Sona, then the song you raise.
In fact, it's said that for someone like Shariputra in the time of Buddha, who could fly through the sky and perform miracles, that the equivalent of that in our present time, as far as the power of the practice, is just to be wearing the robes of a monk, to have the sign of ordination, such as I have. It is said that simply to be wearing the robes of monk in this time is equivalent to what Shariputra was capable of in his time.
Tenidu zane ngaramzu mamambo chigo tatu nyumari ya chula sanap chimbo yu samari chula pinto yu samari dede ma nyingdu zane chude yang salap mewa chude la yang nipa mewa dende chi sangka yu juri si de mari chi guru rumbo cheke ani nyuma nga kate do na tu kate ma nyik so na yang jir nangbu chu lakbar da sangha dorji tebu chu de eni nipa chir ro reji song yu isi.
Sometimes people tend to think that in such a time of degeneration that the Dharma must degenerate also and become weak and of less powerful in its blessings. However, that's not the case. As Guru Rinpoche Padmasambhava said, as the times get more and more difficult, Dharma becomes more and more powerful, especially the teachings and practice of Tantric Buddhism become even more effective and powerful in such times.
어디 링도 있잖아. 다 근데시 당가 주 취세야 돼. 간정아 졸라 개침보인 봐. 대삼로 땅에다 개침보리자. 간득근 코침보. 다들 드람디 토라 취세야 돼. 내갑라 근코 침보. 지완들라 친들라 근코 침보 간데 마당 지와 스멀라 애니 배주다 근코 침보 간데 마 땡아 주 삼로 땅에다 개침보리자.
So it's very important for us to think about the importance of Dharma, to our lives, both in this life itself and also in the course of future lives.
근데 전에 배낭에 남자 준데 빼자고요. 추바 양다바치 앙담복 추바인 바직당 쉴때서 하고 되니 직당 추잔에 하마고니 무슨 라강한 태와이나 강아를 망보트가 천디나니 강한 태야 돼 맞아 내가 나야다 시알라서 봐 나와도 시와라서 봐 강아 침보지 태나 이 무슨 때가 강아 그 돈이 시당라 하자 제발 침보지 요리지.
And as I also often give the example in terms of a person who's the best Dharma practitioner, someone who has a little bit of Dharma knowledge or experience, and someone without any Dharma practice or experience, there's a complete difference in the way that they face difficulties, especially when there are serious difficulties of sickness and death. That the way that these three types of people will face that is very, very different.
배나 추바 양다바지게 추바 앙담보지게 추바지게 나와도 시와라서 봐 근데 지가 강한 태인데 배나 신던데 와당 물주 토미장보당 집좀 말아래 발라서 발라 아니 나와도 시와던데 강한 태인데 값을 아니 가진데 조진데 아니 나시 호랑티 징이 산초 남도 줄세야티 체크 토니 아니 어떻게 시는 로고요리시.
So in the case of those best practitioners like Milarepa,
물주 토미장보
Mucho Tome Zampo,
37 of a practice in Bodhisattva from the Ngurchu Thomi Zangbo and Milarepa and Shindendeva and Ngurchu Thomi Zangbo and also some others like the Holiness Dalai Lama and my root Guru Sanjay Tenzin Rinpoche. It's many good teachers, many good practitioners. I can see
so the way that these very good practitioners would face these difficulties, such as of sickness and death, is with great joy. They welcome those difficulties when they come.
답변나 주반 등보지라 인바이나 아니 내가 돈이 시니 값을 주반 등보지 주택 하코디니나 아니 나와당 강 나와다 시와라 소발라 강아시니 값을 돈이 탑 캐비톤이 시트가 다 맞다 빠르와 나랑 그 레르와 삼바지 그때 짱근가 졸라 semla pe masi pinto chimbo yo dewa o tendichi yogo dowa.
Whereas the person with some Dharma practice will be able to face those difficulties with some amount of skillful means by thinking, impermanence. I know about impermanence, and so this is my karma. This is my karma now, and so even to be able to have such thoughts at that time is very helpful.
다 타만다지 자완이니 취자니 하 마걸리지나 나가 몇개 통살은 망보지라 아니 나 시금이세야당 아니 드라만드라 시하텔라 깽이 되네 아니 마실은 건 아니 실리그 동할 침못 되네 어떤데 값다 동할 지와 스마케 말랑나야 찐디 토니 리틴디 토니 나와도 시와라 소발라 돈이 시당라 하자 제발 침보진도 쉬시 마시기 제발라.
Whereas those without Dharma practice will tend to really fight against sickness and death, say, no, I can't die, I don't want to die, and be crying out. So this is the kind of difference that we see between practitioners from the best to middling to least experience of Dharma. And so even in that final case, without regards to what future lives will bring, there even in this life, lack of Dharma knowledge gives this kind of stress.
Any pena 산지가 송요리시 추세야 돼 고참라오지 마치 송접시니까 고참라오지 젠달라 주본데 송접시 돼야다 셈 송접시 돼야라 고참 참나지 주보 송접시니다 셈 송접시니다 이 송요리시.
So Buddha said that the Dharma is like mail and armor that we can put on to protect our mind, just like armor is worn to protect the body.
근데 전에 당아지 하정직 다다취 투바당 삼바당 곰바당 투상곰섬 시지요한테 하자 깔와상 보이 삼바직에니 쉴었더 녀실이 값소 가이인도 쪼친도 어떤 데시네 투삼시고래지.
So let's really rejoice in having this opportunity to listen to the teachings, to contemplate them, and to meditate upon them, to really treasure this opportunity, to do it with great joy.
라소 다 되게 된듯이 아니 문도가 취되라 된듯이 다 의지가 취되라 아니 다 남초는 진청와들이 주치 주인나나
We'll continue on now with the Precious Garland of the Supreme Path, the 10th set of 10. I'll read those.
대파 충나 시럽치나 갑시진 등 초와이 대파 치라 시럽 충나 독절 안테순 초와이 니르 치라 당와 미나 jun다 고산 초와이 모두 투삼지 좀도 맞지나 곰 멤버 찜치든 초와이 고도 소말한 냠니 맞이나 대포 추죽힌든 초와이 탐닝제 진보라 로마병나 란특바 멤버는 초와이 시럽 동반이라 로마병나 집생 코람든 초와이 직진 춥제진 고 마뇽나 집지 직진 이제 찌든 초와이 정부 기분데 된도 많나 문화가 어성된 초라이 용딘다 님도 치라 로메티나 문화가 좀 총킨된 초라이 되는 초를 취조이 나오시.
These are the 10 deviations. If you have little faith and much knowledge, that is the deviation of becoming a talker. If you have much faith and little knowledge, that is the deviation of pointless exertion. If you have much fortitude and no instructions, that is the deviation of defects and sidetracks. If you have not previously eliminated your superimpositions with hearing and reflection, that is the deviation of meditating upon obscurity. If fresh understanding is not applied in practice, that is the deviation of becoming a jaded Dharma expert. If your mind is untrained in method, great compassion, that is the deviation into the path of the lesser vehicle. If your mind is untrained in knowledge emptiness, that is deviation into the path of samsara. If the 8 worldly dharmas are not overcome, that is the deviation of whatever you do becoming a worldly decoration. If townspeople have too much faith and interest in you, that is the deviation of having to please ordinary people. If you have great qualities and power, but an unstable mind, that is deviation of becoming a performer of village rituals. Those are the 10 deviations.
근데 이 Gampopa 내 차창 때 가르치는 송구 요리시도 있잖아요. 간사 찍그 ngola 탑다 시럽 니차 초델이지 고리시 하고 참에 시럽 그 차유 양치 가시를 시럽 그 차유 타고 참에 되리 탑세야 돼 가르치시도 있잖아요. 탑세야 돼 많이 치슈데 사케게 르그추당 나그추라소바 드슈 거르쇼데라 탑그 차시 시럽 차세야 돼 생고 토네 용아 삼바다 닌지 아니 돈이 그 따와다 산주고 생라소바 드슈 거라 아니 시럽 차시 근데 송거 요리 딱 강따짱 담보대 송다 담보대 하고야도 개친 보려
Gampopa is here pointing out the importance of having both wisdom and skillful means for any Dharma practitioner. Whereas skillful means or the methods refer to physical Dharma practices and verbal Dharma practices, whereas the practice of wisdom is mainly a mental function, development of insight into emptiness and ultimate bodhicitta. So Gampopa is pointing out the importance of having both sides, both method and wisdom, being essential for any Dharma practitioner.
근데 이두잖이 가서 르가 있음데 르다 나그 차데 타고 소리자 생구 차데 싫어고 소리자 어떤데 쟤는 되게 요리지.
So we can think of practices of body and speech as pertaining to method practices and mental practices as pertaining to wisdom practice.
근데 이두잖이 담보 타고 차데 가르치드 송리시데 싫어고 차데 똑바줄에 끼베 치드 송리시. 배나 깨템 담보데 가르치드 야리 깨템 니발에 양즉 붙이드 야리 깨템 니바데 가르치드 야리 깨템 숨발에 양즉 붙이드 야리 근데 이두잖이 탑세야데 중지 델레티는 송거 요리 근데 가르치 탑 리시드 깨템 니바가 탑라리시 깨템 니바데 가르치 탑라리시드 깨템 숨바가 치드 이두잖이 타고 차들레 담보 발라 백 개침보 대바 누구 이치 아니 령아가 사기에도 백 개침보리시 대 찍복은 드게를 왜세는 드게 말이시 아니 시라고 차도 참고리시야 다 디나니 송거 요리
So again, we can think of the method practices as being for primarily practices of body and speech, and those of wisdom to be primarily practices of mind. But those practices of method, skillful means, are for the sake of reaching the practices of wisdom. Just like in a staircase, the first step is a means of reaching the second step, and the second step is a means of reaching the third step. The method practices enable us to reach. Each practice is the method for what? It's the method for reaching that next step, and then that is the method for reaching the next step. So for a beginner and practitioner, the method practices are extremely important, and I would include in this things like faith and aspiration, the determination to practice, and so on.
Tati jibu kin digiri wesi na mendegwa indi tsani ini shirab ka cha tende lep gori isi ta lep sa ta kawala lep gori isi di tsani sim ka thota le lep gori te shirab ka cha terwa di tende lep go yuri isi.
And then the wisdom practices of the mind arise as a result of these method practices.
Pena maji jamso parulan rogo wa ina jamso parulan rogo na 가르치들 간디시는 로그리 시디잖니 두쟁르지를 띠네 두쟁르 띠는 로고로와 구방 오마데 가레리 시디다니 뭐데 구방 오마데 좀 소위 8월든 로아들이 소 8월든 롱킨데 쓰근 티기 요리시디 두쟁게 띠는 티기 요로 근데 인데 잔데 두쟁게 토란 로야데 당아치 치 가르치 거다 탑그 차이 나니 쪼월을 시게 요리 탑그 차데 아니 바기 람파 소위 8월을 랩차데 당가 두쟁들의 야본 도신데 두쟁을 차고 말와 소위 8월을 랩차데 니가 랩사데 랩차리 다디 8월을 랩사데 가레리시데 시랍그 차리 동반이 그 도연도 또 차데 더 사기의 개와 용서 쪽바 차상데 돈이 또 붙이데 쓴거 요리 동반이 또 붙이데 쓴거 요리 동반이 또 차나 아니 렉차리 차마 디나는 좀데 요리 렉데 요리 되데 요리.
So like in the example of needing to cross the ocean, how would we do that? We would need a boat to do that. And so the crossing the ocean symbolizes that those wisdom practices, the realization of selflessness, the realization of emptiness. And all methods are means to realizing that. So all of the methods, similar to getting in the boat to cross the ocean, are the means for reaching the other shore, which is that realization of selflessness.
야야 라소다 담보데이나 대바당 되발라 맞다 대리.
Okay, so then once you reach the other side, reach the other shore, then you've made use of those methods for the boat, and so you no longer need to have attachment to them. You don't have attachment to the boat once you've reached the other side. Nice.
다 바기를 랩차나 다 단덱소. 야야.
바기를 랩소는 도차 계곡도
단덱소. 다데 다데 담보데이다 대바 중라 시랍치나 값이지 기동 좋아인스. 다데게 담보데게 대바데 탑그 차라야 시랍데 아니 시랍그 차라야 단디단이 탑신지 차 요거도 와 대바데 르당 아당 다 센다 라소바사 기게 개와 인데 자네 대바데 탑지 차라야 다 대바 충라 시랍치나 시랍세야데라 시랍라양 아니 투베 시랍당 삼베 시랍당 곰베 시랍당 아니 양치 융록 라소바 망보지 아니 시대와 아니 지 용가부 알라서 봤던 늦게 투바 장배 시대와 시랍 소래와 시랍 단항과 시랍 충중을 시게 요리 아니 시랍 양다바데 가래리 시대잖니 시랍 양다바데 시랍 남이 그 다외 지심바 시랍 남지기 시랍 서게 요리 시랍 남지기 시랍 시야 돼 남이 동반이지 지심바 어디 다외 제 탭송아이나 아니 시랍 초도 제 바래 서게 요리 어딘데 이제잖아 아니 대바 충라 시랍 진보 종송아이나 아니 대 값이 진도 거르거리 있어.
So if you have little faith and much knowledge, that is the deviation of becoming a talker. So here we have those two elements, with the faith pertaining to methods and knowledge pertaining to wisdom. However, the wisdom which was referred to here is wisdom through study of the texts, for instance, the 5 great treatises. One becomes very knowledgeable in these, but does not have true conviction in one's mind, then one will just talk about it. And so the wisdom that we really need to develop is that insight into selflessness. Once our wisdom is sustained by insight into selflessness, then that's true wisdom. But the wisdom, just knowing the words of these texts and being able to talk about them, is a case of too much on the side of so-called or supposed wisdom, but not enough on the side of methods and skillful means.
그 말이 시대잖니 아니 나랑주 유가 랑기 준들 치드 와 랑기 준들 차시다 또 유몽라서 봤다 닌들 치드 그바 디치드 시랍세야드 그바 디치드.
So our wisdom is for the sake of subduing ourselves, of developing self-control and to prevent ourselves from going under the influence of anger and attachment and clinging and then confused ignorance.
딱하시라 아니 롭종 망보 로망보라 롭종 세네 롭종 세 야리가 라지라 아니 소수 심주 마더라시 롭종데 생그나라 용 마더라시 레바나라데 레바데 아니 슬로라 베주 당네 아니 말주 조야 장장게 오파기테 안데 마소 마키테 안데 마소 삼바지게 아니 디진데게 아니 롭종 유 삼바 ngajar데게 아니 소수 유몽 양 프제게 롭종데게 진라 송아이나 야보 말이지 어떤데 송거 요리다.
So if somebody learns a lot about the Dharma without applying it to themselves, then they will get to the point of just seeing faults in others, pointing out faults in others, and develop a prideful attitude themselves.
어단이바데게 대바 치라 시랍 추나 동사 아데스 좋아이시 다데니 독소리노와 야 대바 침보시 대바 하제 침보 대바 대양 줌신 신의 대바지 토와이나 시랍 문도 송네 대바 차가도와 줌신 신의 대바지 이네 레와이나 시랍 문도 송네 이네 학고원데 자네 줌신 시베 대바리 니 대바데 대바 치라서야 되게 른데 침보시 시라고 딱지 흥을 마성화시 른데 흥을 송네 른데 그 장부 대바대당 대바 침보 직당 아니 시라고 딱지 마실 시랍 충청 송화이나 아니 독자 안테지인도 총로 그래 이소 말.
If you have much faith and little knowledge, that is the deviation of pointless exertion. So the kind of faith which is talked about here is blind faith, where you just simply follow teachings without understanding them. the actual best faith, the ideal faith, would be a faith that arises out of deep examination and investigation of the teachings. And then a faith that is based in that would be very stable. But simply having a lot of faith but not really understanding the teachings, one will put a lot of effort into practice, but will not have much results.
Any new chila, Danga Mina, Juda Kosan Chua is. Tadilla new chimbochi, young Ganza Kashila, new Utuk, Segora, Zund, Hajat and Ritzaoji. Any chula, Zund Chimbochina, young Ganza de Lama Danga La Soba, Chineti Menga Segora, Lama Danga. 강냠 설린지 추게 네 하마와시나 라마다와 라소바 메 소와이나 애니 코랑기 뉴리 침부디 뉴리 침보세 엔드자네 레가 야본 두고 리뷰나 양 애니 쭈다 고살린 촌네 양문나 쭈차 양문나 고사도 노사라소발라 춘도고 요리시 단디나네 가레팅기 요리시디 자네 뉴리 침보 이와도 빼야버리디 디톨라 라마다와데 고리시
If you have much fortitude and no instructions, that is the deviation of defects and sidetracks. So some people have a tremendous amount of perseverance and fortitude for practice. However, if they don't have the instructions from the guru, if they don't know what is the most essential points to put into practice, then they'll either come up with faulty practice or make a mistaken turn in their practice, deviate from what is most efficient practice.
나대게 희바듯이 문도 투삼지 정도 맞지나 곰멤버 찜티든 좋아인지 나대 빼마시 야보죠다 디나네 당봉아 주 곰자고아이나 빼차뜩사 하고고리지 가시에 그때 라고도 곰레 라오리스거도 나든데 망볼로 툭송 곰다 레 라오링에 곰자 시거스거도 곰자 시세야 돼 호랑 그 곰대당 낭부 추용의 시 야리 곰대니 셰퍼페 침보요리 근데 자네 곰 양 땅바지 자고아이나 빼차랐다는 롭종세네 당보 투바세 투베 학콜리세네 빼나 같은 단다 지금 핑고아이나 밴드 가발은도 당보 같은 무슨 거라 근데 이제 자네 빼띠나 인가란서 곰 자주때 당보 곰 가래인 바데 하마와이나 애니 곰 멤버 찜치라 거세야 돼 애니 곰데 고와당 노와당 라소 바텐데 용도 거래시
If you have not previously eliminated your superimpositions with hearing and reflection, that is the deviation of meditation upon obscurity. So, there are many people who meditate, who like meditation, who tell me, oh, I can meditate. Meditation is easy. However, this idea about meditation is quite different from our idea of what meditation is in our Buddhist context. That if you don't have study, then you're very confused about what to meditate upon. It's very obscured. So that is the point of doing a lot of study to understand, what we are to meditate upon. And that way getting an idea of the target. For instance, if we're going to be shooting an arrow at a target, to have some idea of where the arrow is aimed. Otherwise, we don't have any particular aim for the arrow, just like we would not have any particular aim for our meditation.
라소 다들라 슈다 가시 슈안도 들라다 빼나 곰 멤버 찜치도 고르세야 되게 Kareting yuri sidutane. Any gom tela. Ne that the hamawachi. Amborang tuba, samba, gomba. The inyamyo yapome. Any lame mengayang, kayang mashiwachi. 소수 곰지 잡는 세대와이나 곰도 논도 그러지 가와래 놀그리 시도잖니 any something 담보 something 니바 something 숨바 something 숨바 나니 any 김치 먹지시데 김치 디나니 any 든지치 그 something 나나니 곤도 그 요리시 any 고르송아이나 any 깔빠 똥차 망보라니 고빠라 파든데 시네 셈 지양 마이 토메와 대가 마링 출배 저 송바 나이 나 토메 코랑 삼지 딘주 가요 매대와나지 코랑 든디시 파 자르 송와나지 든디시 내로 그 요리 깔파 망볼 내대 그 요리 송리.
About this meditation upon obscurity, if one has not studied, then one's meditation, to talk about what this means, this meditation upon obscurity, as one would progress through the mental placements, the first mental placement, second mental placement, third mental placement, as we develop single-pointed concentration, it's around that third mental placement that we can really start to go wrong, where our meditation becomes focused on sort of a nothingness, holding on to nothing. And as said in the scriptures, that if you were to spend thousands of years, eons, in such a meditation, it would be fruitless. So this is the kind of meditation upon obscurity which is being referred to here.
지양 마이 토메와 대가 마릭 출배 저 송요리 등상 곰장키 망보직 된다오지 맨로 삼상 초독 코랑 고시네라 대파까 잠직라 심지양 메디나 나 토메 니 곡시네야 마이바 지양 메디네 딘지메반다 주파 든지치 그 심라 내대와이나 तेला गोम से क्यों मारे गोयां तबा से क्यों मारे.
So simply stopping awareness is not good meditation. Sometimes what's said in effect in this citation, this quotation, is that simply closing off the consciousnesses to not be aware of anything is a source of deception. This is not correct meditation.
Lasso. Any dege koto somala nyamli mazina tipo chuju kinda choice. Ta koto somala sekayure koto seate lamendune go to seatri. Ta lamendune danga tune. Any churanga topa jule jene koto soma de la sarpa sekayure. Tendechi 당근에 나가 똑바 줄을 째서 엄마라 많이 빠지 생는 줄 안고 송 삼바 소수라 이 치와지게 근데지 소와이나 아니 고도 소마지 디 고도 소마텔라 아니 추랑 그 다랑라 카톡 냠니 마세와 이나 아니 디포 추주 킨데 촌도 거리지.
If fresh understanding is not applied in practice, that is a deviation of becoming a jaded Dharma expert. So a fresh understanding that's being referred to here is the kind of understanding and realization that you have from listening to teachings from the Guru, when you have, an impactful understanding, a realization where you go, oh, so that's it. And you're thinking about yourself. You're applying it to yourself. This is the kind of real realization that is a fresh understanding referred to here. But if that is not immediately applied, if that's sort of left as just knowledge, then and not applied personally, sincerely by the practitioner, then there's this danger of becoming jaded and saying, "Oh yeah, I know all about that," not really applying it in one's mind.
Pena dendriya dandi nani peji yawa ina tadi pedi chirangsu so balan roko yuna mina hako maso tadi pecha mamboni ti pedi yayo peni yayo ri ja chadong kwa lun tursi ja chadong sina ja la churang ke tachi zo kwa ina ja de tambo mela cha go ri mela cha ne ja chao ke kapsa dongwa ina ja de la zona ya chogo tare zona ya chogo churang ke chucha kare zona ya chogo yo isi ja de marbo marchang tambo amasi mela marbo ji sa ne ani thoa ke dang ne tu ne ani kamba ke chön ne de sewa ina ja de la kare ne zo chogo yo isi churang ke ja de mela cha cha de this is ya ya ina ani churang ke dong go na le lao yo ma isi ja de trip to cha cha isi koran 왜 디나냐 짜 메라 작바나 이 당보 고도 소마세야 되게 알레 당에 하고 송삼바지 니시 살바지 니네 값서 니와 냠도 다랑나 띠 톨 냠이세네 준지신데 로고레시 베직데 베니바데 꼬아 람 꼬아시와 꼬아 레더 꼬아데 주랑 그 니네 데 시고아이나 꼬아데라 당보 추이나나 방 추이나나 방네 아니 추이나나 방사도 야뜨네 아니 변능 아주 대치기 다 꼬아들라니 넘속 아니 펌퍼다 니니 세와이나 아니 꼬아들 딱고 먼투도 니니 세와이나 차원이 값서 아니 꼬아들 야부 차거리시 꼬아들 야 추이나나 방사도 야뜨 양코 박감성와이나 아니 추랑 그 같이 꼬아들라니 다 가르치 그렇지 넘속 탑시 세 꼬아들 같이 니나양 아니 꼬아들라 다 라마다 조페주 가르 땅고나 때 나이 용거요 말이지 다 되게 가르송 그렇지 꼬아 룬터 야 마르동시 야 마르보 인서 값서 동거리지 꼬아 룬바 인바 값서 떨거리지 베티나 이게 똑바 줄지 애니 값서 람 타랑 거 토는 로는 냠미시 거리서 어디서 오니 다들 망보를 차서 고다.
So there's a couple of examples that we would talk about. I'm not sure how suitable they are for Western mind, but I think pretty understandable. It has to do with while the iron is hot, the leather is soft. So in the case of the iron being hot, for a blacksmith to be working with iron, they first of all have to heat it to a red hot stage and be hitting it with a hammer, getting it malleable, and then once it's in that red hot state, then it can be shaped into any kind of ornament or weapon or whatever is needed. But after getting the iron red hot, if it's not immediately worked with, if it's allowed to cool, then once again it's hard and can't be shaped or anything. And similarly with leather, when we work with leather in Tibet, we would wet it, and then we'd stroke it and smooth it and put oil in it, and it's workable, and it can be made into whatever shape of clothing or whatever article is needed. However, if after the leather is wet, it's allowed to just sit out and dry someplace, then it doesn't matter how much you try to put oil into it or massage it, you won't be able to get very far. So this is examples for when we have fresh understanding, impactful understanding of the teachings, to immediately work with them, and not let them simply rest and become like the cold iron for that hard leather again.
Lasso. Any day, Tam Ninja Chimbola, Lo Mabiana, Lantipa me Banchois. Dandin and Ninja Chimbo the Tabla Yadwa. That din and Ninja Chimbo Tabla Yauna, and it shut up like a Yago, she did a Tony Katawa the Yago Yuri. Tandin and the Tam Ninja Chimbo, Lo Mabiana Inas. Tam Ninja Chimbola Yang, Tapsi Niganani, Tap the Ninja Chimbola Yan, Lo Mabiana Ina, any Bombani Katawa the Jula Chica Yomari. Ombani Katawa the Jula Machiwa ina, Ninja Chita Dimbaji, Chekamewa in the Tani, any lam tipa mimba, Nintu Galamla Ma Kondo Yuri, somebody.
If your mind is untrained in method, great compassion, that is the deviation in the path of the lesser vehicle. So here, method is being equated with great compassion, in which case then wisdom refers to insight into selflessness and emptiness. And if our mind, is not imbued with great compassion, then it cannot become the cause for the most profound realization of emptiness and selflessness, and therefore our path will veer off or deviate into that of the Hinayana, the lesser vehicle.
Tadek Dumbadek, Shirap Ombanina, Lo Majana, Gibson Kolamden, Chorais. Gan to Badek, Tap Ninja Chimbos, Yumbadek, Shirap Ombanis, Sondoa, that did Yam the City. The Shirap Ombanila Yang, Lo Majana Ina, Gibson Kolam the Joais, and a going to Shiba. Narang to Look Chuseata, Naga Chuseata, Sink Chusea, Sake Chukandichisena, Tama the Toy Yongsate, and it only gets in Chuchil and Rogoyuri. Ombani Zima Zima ina Sake give a Kandichi in a and Sake Gavate, Sandokuyuri, Landokuyuri, Zendokuyuri. Churangatere o Manepe Meos Manichiton in a Manet and Duncan Duka Tombani Gisine, Tony Jet Deona, T gave it out to Navian Zetukumari, Polhal and Roya Mari. Only Zimazin Sake give a Kandichi say de Onayang. Give up Namda Children Roku Mari, somebody, Tandin and it is so good.
If your mind is untrained in knowledge emptiness, that is deviation in the path of samsara. So previously we looked at the deficiency in the methods, great compassion. Now looking at deficiency on the side of knowledge, of insight into emptiness. Gonda Rinpoche nga store na.
Yeah, that you got a dorji the command of today.
Toshina Rinpoche nga toji di gugudu.
Yeah.
Then test sort
Under the young. Lots of coming. Namja Jun the Saketa Sami say at the top the shirap new, the Lunga Sake Chukande, saying I am so young sate, so young sate. Chutama listen on the Jamchina Pakura, Papsanda, Bongbani Tisimba, Tony Katola, Shirap Katola, so young.
So all of these, so as we mentioned, all of the methods are for the purpose of realizing emptiness, realizing selflessness. And ideally, then that realization of selflessness will then sustain all of those practices that we do. Even if we're reciting, say, the Om Mani Padme Hum mantra, if that could be sustained by insight into emptiness, into selflessness, then it becomes very powerful, becomes indestructible, becomes permanent. And on the other hand, if we do the conventional practices of those on the side of method, practices of body and speech that are not sustained by this insight into emptiness, then it's not perfect virtue. It's not the most effective virtue. Yes.
Oh yeah. That is good. That is yeah. That is yeah. That is la. Shuna mambo te ta ni te samja. Ani gwa de la zhongbu ji bi den de on jiktin chubje ri do jie ba de. Jiktin chubje ngo ma nyon na. Jibzi jiktin ji jin de chwa yin si. Ta de julang ge gap song a chu. Julang ge gap su da so su nam ya jin de tun sang ge gap su na. Ani jiktin chubje se ya de so su ju le shu kun do ga men do chuba nam da ji yin na ta ji se ya de pe ke chin bo cha de yuri.
If the 8 worldly dharmas are not overcome, that is deviation. Whatever you do becoming worldly decoration. So it's very important that we always examine our practice to see whether these 8 mundane concerns that have been mentioned before are entering into our mind, if they're affecting our practice or not. Excuse me for just 1 second. I have something I need to attend to.
Jiktin chubje ngoma churan juri ya ju yo a.
Yeah.
He ma che la da.
2200. Just 2200. Okay, sure.
Ani tangbo de ni ba song na ga wa. Ma song na ma ga wa. Ani ni ba de deva shong na ga wa. Ma song na ma ga wa. Sun ba de yin ji tu ra se yong na ga wa. Yin ji me ba se yong na ma ga wa. Yi ba de rang la tam nin bo la so ba ko na ga wa. Ani nin bo ma nin ba ko na ma ga wa. Ta te lan jiktin chubje se ke yuri.
So these 8 mundane concerns are, feeling overjoyed about being happy, or extremely depressed about feeling sad, being pleased to gain something and displeased to lose it or not gain it. Then being pleased, being very happy to be praised, and being very dejected to be abused, and then being very happy to hear good news and pleasant talk, and being very unhappy to hear bad news and unpleasant things. These are 8 mundane concerns, which were overbalanced in these ways, and there are worldly mundane concerns.
Da guba de ka zhongbu ji bi den do ma na ge ngo song den chwa yin si. Zhongba ge da pe na chu ba da ji na da. Da ngan de ji na pe ji nga la xia wa yin na. Oh me jin ba de so go chu ba ya bo ri si chu lob jong ya bo yu ri se an da chi. Zhongbu ji o da me jin ba ge nga ngo xi ba de su de ji la wa yin na. Anin cham cha la de 파죠 그 들리지 라오가 좀 치라 띠네 애는 직디 취지가 왕도 손에 파죠도 ngosong 거야 어떤데 차리니까 요리 심마나 ngosong도 좋아 인시 네 어떤데 송 요리
If townspeople have too much faith and interest in you, that is the deviation of having to please ordinary people. So for instance, in my own case, if people were to say to me, "Oh, you're such a good Dharma practitioner," then what tends to happen when you have this kind of relationship with many people, acquaintances, then you might start to show off for them.
다티가 저 가레스탐노 땅고리 시디잖니 애는 직디 취지가 왕도 마 송아지네 코란주 대바 약사된 되게 요리 주랑 대바 야나 코란주 소남사 그러바데 주랑 그 문에 ngala konse te ba ya ngala konse tora tong do samba ina ani gang ke tin jikti chibje de le ngodo ta te male be thapsi zo ko re te le wa ina nin de yo mari so mari.
So on the one hand, people developing faith in oneself is good. If they're developing faith in something good, it's positive for them. So there's no need to discourage that. but from one's own side, one starts to develop pride and think, oh yeah, I must really be something. And that's where the deviation occurs.
다 주바데게 용딘다 님트 치라 롬메디나 머나 존총킨든 초와인시.
If you have great qualities and power, but an unstable mind, that is deviation of becoming a performer of village rituals.
다데게 남자 준데 추세야데 가르치데 임바 다테 학고야데 개치보리인도와 추세야데 직진 춥지 공론 프로젝트 진 랑게 손에는 직진 춥지 그 공론 프로젝트 진 들지라 차송아이나 추디 추남다질은 로고요 말이 와 디디도 자네 용딘당 님트 침보당 아 용딘 침보세야 되게 세디 토디 소소라 용딘다 님트 침보라서 뭐 출을 띠는 되지 요거 요와이나 용딘의 님트 요와도 출한긴 용탕리 출한 거 빼야 보시래 다때 간드신의 배주 땅 것도 다때 그 간드신의 랑게 심준들 탑시당 랑게 심준들 차도 이해라 핀톨이 그 탑시지 간드시거든 어따때 남주도 딤버고네 로팀보 마세와이나 아니 머나 존총키의 처시네 아니 머나가 오송당 존초당 아니 대보당 어디서 걸어 저러고 요래서 말해.
So if you have great qualities and power, that's good. I mean, but the question is then, what are you going to do with them? You know, if they are turned inward to develop self-control, to subdue the afflictive emotions in oneself, then that's and then in addition to that, then thinking, how can I help others? How can I benefit others? Then this is the correct use of such qualities and power. But otherwise, again, if it's for the sake of showing off and building oneself up, then that's a mistaken use of such realizations.
근데 양 존총킨시야 돼. 아주 벽에 소중한 나니. 라마카시라. 이제 로병아 뜻이요. 아니 나던 니바든 레야님도 침보도. 로시다 템보미 로 템보미 세야디 로 템보 세야디라. 산축 신다 또니가 따와가 로가 찌마신바 된지라 코나 인저거도와. 로 메틴 세야디 산축 신다 또니가 따웨 찌마신. 삼바도 니지가 찌마신와. 된지가 로 템보 메와 차네 렌디스와이나. 아니 메체 감볼에 샵딘시에네 존초세네. 랑그 님트데다 랑그 용티 틱스지어주데니 제 꼴까 존초세네. 샵딘데 세네. 베샤한테 사네. 어딘데 노데니. 나 별에 된데 요리. 바지 데라코나 인저기 요리시. 나 고천이도와.
So there are sometimes practitioners, we're in Tibet, who would develop some qualities, some knowledge, some power with say, mantra. But when we say that they had an unstable mind, we could say that their minds were not sustained by bodhicitta and by insight into selflessness and emptiness. And in such a case, a person could easily be drawn into spending their whole life, doing rituals for people. This would be a mistaken use of such realizations.
Good job, Saba. Good job, Gosser. Yeah. 야, 다 트랭가르와 트랭가라 레카테스지요. 다다 추소 바자 찬도세 야니 다다 추소 축지다 까마 축지린도 아니 트랭 트와 틀린데 꾸치 네텔라 참기 눈타 지마텔라 같이 트와 틀린 틴데 랭기 트랭가라 트와 틀린데 렌레르테 숨도 가 레카테스지 렙소와.
So I've got some work that I need to attend to, so please save up any questions that you have for next time?
So sorry, I not time to give to you question and answer. I have other class today. Yeah, next Saturday definitely I want to take the question and answer. Please pay attention today the teaching and the last Saturday also the teaching. Okay. 말해 삼바 나중에 인지 겁도들 개모디 개모 효과도 좋아해. 주나양
Sometimes Gampopa chapter something to do.
주랑 개보 차네.
Not Gampopa chapter.
가가 주다 포사빼 저 유는 주랑네 빼 됐다다.
Jang Zapo chapter.
야 주랑한테 라드 차도도 왜? 주랑 유도 로드 시든지 띵 춥지도 그걸 또라다. 나 유보인. 근데 잠깐만 더 와.
Lame.
I just teasing you. Okay. Let's go. Any talent time yagi dang etray.
So we'll stop here today.
And then Sawe Lama Rinpoche Kagyu Jiworo Peme Dishul Kajin Chimbe Kone Jisone Kuson Toki Wodru Zetu So Omso de Ramjan Kyamne Gyatsu Chinla Tan Denye Tendre Luwa Mepetu Kebara Chime Seye Latso Ki Tsewa Ishe Chinche Tengderepo Kekun Chinle Kaken Kama Pe Kase Donga Chazo Mengachu Ome Shwe Lamda Nyamdo Ki Yenden Tseka Getere Shabdes Kamke Sansam Doche Rankam So Lekwara Tenje Longdo Tambechu Shiru tu sam gombe tu de ye sa den gembe chinle ta chin sho pande la me number tarpa la keji samya lo ta mi kesh chinze le kwara thong we me gu ke la me chin la sim la ju kon sho Kewa kundo yangda lama tangzi me chuki pela longchuchi Sata lamke yunde rabzo ne pade lame kopanyo to
O glorious and precious root Guru, please take seat of lotus at my crown, caring for me in your great kindness. Please grant attainments of body, speech, and mind. Om Swasti. May the blessings of infinite seas of our places of refuge, the force of the two truths, infallible interdependence, and especially the hosts of deities of immortal well-being, now rain down the magnificent splendor of their wisdom and power of longevity. The Lord of the dance of all victors, enlightened activities, Karmapa, your unquenchable thirst for the inner essence of his traditions, doctrines, discourses, tantras, great seal, great perfection, and pith instructions, has brought the qualities of science on the spiritual path, your experience and realization to their full flowering. May your life be firm. May the wisdom mysteries of your body, speech, and mind be as perfectly firm as a Vajra's own immutable elements. May your gatherings of disciples who study and practice the sacred teachings of scripture and realization by listening, contemplation, and meditation cover the earth. May your activity reach its ultimate consummation. May I never for an instant develop wrong views of the glorious Guru's life and deeds, but with devotion, seeing all they do as excellent, may the Guru's blessings enter my mind. In all lives, may I never be parted from qualified gurus, enjoy glory of Dharma, and by perfecting all qualities of the paths and stages, quickly attain the state of the glorious Guru.
Dashin Simjin Damji Lochi Sun Dowar Sinji Labda Sora Chilamden Dowar Sinji Labda Sora Lantraba Sevar Sinji Labda Son Triba Yishi Sun Chawar Sinji Labda So Daso Namji Chidan Timba Ye Chidar Samba Yivjin Triba Dan Nedoki So Pardu Jibe So Onye Var Shivar Sinji Labda So Lasso Tujiche Tamani. Thank you everyone.
Tujiche Rinpoche.
Thank you Sambala Kadinche Tujidang. Thank you everyone. Thank you so much. See you on Monday and Saturday also.